Welcome to episode 2 of Christian Teaches. I'm Christian. Today we'll be talking about the consequence ladder. First, we have a standard, pretty boilerplate negative side consequence ladder. It's paired with, and it's one of the things that makes this consequence ladder really special, is positive consequences that are equivalent to the negative ones. This consequence ladder is in a U shape, where the strongest negative consequences and the strongest positive consequences are at the top. Every table has a number. And this is something you can have fun with. I have each table as one of my favorite albums, so table number 4 is Led Zeppelin 4, as you can see. And constantly throughout the class, based on how well that table is meeting my behavioral expectations, that table is moving around. So if they start off medium expectations, they come in, they're starting the warm-up right away, they'll start over here on the green. If they continue to do that throughout the class, they'll keep moving up. Say they start to struggle, they start to waver a little bit, they'll move down on the green, potentially over to the red, and keep moving up on the red. But then if their behavior gets together and they fix it, they'll move down the red and back over. Okay, so tables are constantly moving around. There's a few reasons for this. First, I've found in my experience that if a table gets, say, the whole way up to a referral, and those students know that they are getting a referral already, say that happens in the first 10-15 minutes of class, they have no motivation to fix their behavior for the remainder of the class period. So this always gives them motivation to say, okay, we're struggling right now, but we're going to get it together, we're going to finish strong. Also on the other side too. So if you have a table that's really strong on the positive side, they're motivated to continue meeting those expectations, so they stay on the positive side. Consequences are never assigned until the end of the class period. So again, if a table gets far up on the negative side, they always have motivation to move over. One of the strongest things about this is that it's predictable. So students always know, okay, if you're here and expectations aren't met, here's what will happen, and then here's what will happen. And same thing on the other side too. There's also a lot of equity built into it, because we never have, phone calls tend to be the ones that students are the most invested in, either positive or negative. And there's never any students asking, like, why didn't I get a phone call? Why did she get a phone call and I didn't? Because it's very, very clear your table is here or your table is here, and that's when you get the phone call. It also helps keep me accountable as far as equity, because if you're not really consciously tracking whose parents you contact, it can be really easy to not do that in an equitable way. So this makes sure that all of my students have an opportunity to get those positive notes home. It ends up in having a lot of positive calls home, which is good. I also really like that it works as a team, because it builds team accountability. So what I see in my classroom, I've been doing this for several years now, this consequence ladder, is if I come over and move a table up on the red side, immediately that team will start looking around the table and say, okay, what are we doing wrong? What could we be doing better? And they hold themselves accountable for that, hold each other accountable for that. The question people always ask about this is, what do you do if it's only 1 or 2 students at a table who are causing that table to move up on the negative side of the ladder? So say, for example, table 4 ends up on negative phone call, and that's primarily because there was 1 or 2 students that were really, really struggling that day, and no matter what the team did, nothing was changing. What I would do in that situation is the negative phone calls look different. So if a student was trying their best, but the team still struggled, that negative phone call will be something along the lines of, hey, your child's team struggled today as a team. I would really like to see your child step up and take on more of a leadership role, that kind of a thing. So that it's not necessarily like your child did something wrong, but I would like to see them step up a little bit more, and as a team, they weren't successful. It's also important to note that there will be some consequences that I do issue in the moment. So if table 4 is at seat change, and that's because of one student who is driving them up to seat change, I may in the moment ask that student to move to a different table. And when the student says, why am I moving? I will say, because your table's on seat change. Again, it's an equity piece where that's always being done fairly and predictably, and students always understand why it's happening. If you choose to do it, it needs to be done with fidelity. I've seen other teachers try it, and they haven't done it with fidelity, and it hasn't worked. If your table gets to negative phone call or positive phone call, you need to make that phone call. If a table gets the team of the class, you need to recognize that table at the end of the class for doing a really good job. If a table gets the teacher assigned conversation, which is detention in my school, that needs to be issued and needs to happen. You also need to be moving tables around fairly often. So I will typically visit this in a class period every 5 minutes or so, and that's like the maximum time I would go between moving tables. So it's something you definitely need to keep an eye on, and there needs to be a lot of motion happening up here so the students are responsive to it. So that's the consequence ladder. Please let me know if you try it out. Let me know how it works for you. I'd love to hear about that. You can leave a comment on this video, or you can DM me on Instagram at Christian Teaches. Next week, we'll be featuring the sister system to the consequence ladder, which is the trust meter right here, my second most favorite classroom management tool. Thanks for watching. Best of luck this week. And as always, teach on.